FY15 budget. Mrs. Gorman's going to give us a preliminary overview of next year's budget.
This is really, I guess, part two from last month when we started, talked a little bit in detail about the foundation formula and some of the revenue side of our budget. So we will continue as we're kind of finalizing the budget preparation. And I forgot to as a review, I think it's good for us to at least take a look annually at the various components of the budget. As you know, school finance, we have various funds that we are responsible to maintain. The Fund 1, it contains expenditures for salary and benefits for our support staff, our non-certificated group. It also includes all of the supplies, utilities, and textbooks that are used by the schools. Our Fund 2 is also called the Teachers Fund. In that particular fund, we track expenditures related to certificated staff, the salary and benefits. We also record expenditures related to tuition payments to other districts. We also have our Fund 3, which we will not be talking in detail regarding tonight, but Fund 3 is our debt service fund. Expenditures, revenues within Fund 3 are dedicated to the retirement of the debt of the district. So any bonds that we have sold previously are tracked in Fund 3. Our capital projects fund is Fund 4, and those are major expenditures for the district. So equipment item, buildings, any large repairs that are done are tracked in our capital projects fund. We also sometimes talk about the unrestricted fund balance that the district has. And the unrestricted fund balance, I guess you could equate that to like a savings account. Those are the balances that are remaining at the end of the year. When you take the operating fund, the Fund 1 and Fund 2 balances plus any revenues that are earned during the year, less any expenditures to get the resulting unrestricted fund balance. We also talk about a fund balance percentage, which is calculated by dividing the unrestricted fund balance by the expenditures in the operating fund. So that will primarily be what we are talking about tonight. And as I'm going through this, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. As a review, the slide that you see now shows our unrestricted fund balance over the last 4 fiscal years. I'm showing the percentage of fund balance as well as the dollar amount. As you can see, our fund balance did grow in fiscal year 11 and 12. We did go down fiscal year 13, declined slightly by about $300,000, $400,000. And we are budgeted in fiscal year 14 for that fund balance to decline as well. As you know, we take a very conservative approach to our budgeting. And typically what you will see is that our revenues will end up being greater than what is budgeted, and our expenditures are less than what is budgeted. That is the only way that I'm comfortable building a budget, so hopefully you can appreciate that. At this time, as you look at results through March 2014, projecting at this time, it appears as though our unrestricted fund balance will be approximately 34.5. So again, we will deficit spend slightly, but not to the degree that is in our budget.
So about 12 million.
So about 13.2.
Oh, there you go.
So we're again, this slide shows the budgeted balances for Fund 1 and 2, and then the projected balance at the end of fiscal year 14. Of course, that will change some between now and the end of the year, depending on our expenditures, but we should be in this area. Okay, just a review again about our revenues. It's important to know our funding sources. Our three major revenue sources for the school district are our local property taxes, the state foundation formula, and Prop C. Our district is very fortunate in that our property tax revenue is very stable. We don't see the fluctuations that many districts throughout the state may see. You know, a few years ago, 3 and 4 years ago, many districts were seeing a major decline in their assessed valuation. We're very fortunate to have a very stable revenue source in our property tax. The foundation formula, which is our single largest revenue source, of course, is the money we receive from the state. Right now, we are being paid on the foundation formula at a proration factor of 93.2. We had budgeted 92.6. So as you can see, that's a little bit greater than what was in the original budget. This particular slide shows a graph of our revenue sources from fiscal year 7 through fiscal year 14. What I wanted to kind of point out on this particular slide, if you look back, fiscal year 7, the state was the larger revenue source at about 42%. Now that has changed where our local revenue is actually generating more funds for the district than the state. So that's, I think, a trend that most districts are seeing, that their state revenue is declining. This slide shows a little bit longer time frame from fiscal year 2 through fiscal year 14. And again, I just kind of wanted to show the various changes. The Prop C has stayed pretty stable, but there have been some changes in the other 3 areas of revenue. This particular slide shows a pie graph of our revenue sources, how we actually ended fiscal year 13. The state now comprises 37.8% and local 39.1%. So again, we're seeing that the total local revenue is a bigger piece of the pie. Our budget for fiscal year 14, again, as I had mentioned, the basic formula is the single largest funding source at 33.4% of our operating revenue, and property taxes are 30%. The Prop C money that we receive, which is the statewide sales tax, is about 8.3%. This slide shows a graph of the Prop C sales tax. We are finally getting back to the level where we of revenue that we received back in 2007. We took a significant drop in fiscal year 9 and 10 when the state economy dropped. So we're finally getting back to the level that we were at that time. Local revenue, the property tax, as I build the budget for fiscal year 15, I'm using the estimated assessed valuation at $390 million, which is where we were as of December 31st, 2013, and using the operating levy that we levied last year of 2.9696. Again, we anticipate that the debt service levy will be maintained at 25 cents, and we will be able to pay all of our debts maintaining that 25-cent levy. Reminder of the state foundation formula, and it's kind of amazing if you look back. That was passed back in 2005, which, wow, time flies. That's 9 years ago. And it has been fully implemented, but not fully funded, as you know. And we also, every other year, there's a recalculation of this state adequacy target, which is one of the components of the state foundation formula. And also, they review the thresholds for free and reduced lunch add-ons, for special education, and for limited English proficiency. Those thresholds are reviewed every other year and adjusted, and those fluctuations will impact your weighted average daily attendance numbers. So, this particular slide, I know it's pretty busy, and shows our weighted average daily attendance, how we finished last year, what it appears this year, and then the projections for the next 2 years. And as you can see, when we go into fiscal year 15 and 16, the threshold for free and reduced lunch count increases from 38.8% to 41%. So therefore, you have to have a higher number of free and reduced student in order to achieve those same add-on numbers. So that will negatively impact our weighted average daily attendance. We do not have enough special education students in our district to give us any additional add-ons to our weighted average daily attendance. We do have a few additional LEP add-ons because of our numbers in that area as well. This slide, again, very busy. It is the actual calculation for the state foundation formula. What I would like to point out as we are building the budget for next year, we are using the estimates being given from House Bill 2002, and that would indicate that our state adequacy target will remain at 6,131, but our proration factor will increase to 98%. So we will see an increase in the amount of money that we are receiving from the state if that holds true. Okay, so on this particular slide, I tried to recap from our major revenue sources. The first column shows the 2014 original budget, and it shows the property tax, the Prop C, and the state foundation formula. The second column is the fiscal year 2014 estimate, and the next column will be next year's budgeted dollars for those revenue sources, and then a comparison to original budget and then to the 2014 estimated revenue. So compared to our fiscal year 14 original budget to our 2015 estimate, we are anticipating we will see about $1.1 million increase in revenue. Most of that coming from the state foundation formula. So that's a positive. We haven't always been able to see the positive of a number, so that's good. As a reminder, just want to talk, every year we're looking for opportunities to look for more efficiencies. We also, and Kelly's going to speak about this in just a few minutes, we do have to look at staffing needs and what will be required for next year. And we also meet with our salary and welfare committee as well as our support staff committee. On the expenditure side, our health insurance, we are anticipating, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, a 7% increase. That would equate to $203,000 additional dollars going into the budget. Movement on the salary schedule, which means a person's been here 1 year more, and therefore they get an increase on the salary schedule. That is $320,000, and that includes salary and benefits, the associated benefits with that. Each percentage change to our base salary is approximately $265,000 increase. Again, we are in a very sound financial position. However, we have to continue to look at any opportunity that we may have to improve efficiencies and use the taxpayer dollars to the fullest extent that we can. So we can't ever be comfortable in the position that we are in. So Kelly, I think you're going to speak a little bit about
Student numbers.
Student numbers and
staffing
staffing.
As part of the budget discussion, obviously with staffing being about 80% of our expenditures each year, we review numbers constantly year-round. We're running projections for the upcoming year. We use a 10-year rolling average to look at how classes move through the school district. First grade to second, for example, we will typically return 98.4% over the last 10 years, so to speak, or those type numbers. And so we try to project our staffing needs. We want to be very efficient with the staff we have. We don't want to carry staff that we don't want to add staff when it's not necessary. So we want to react to the best projections we can find. We also wait to make recommendations until at least after kindergarten registration, because the numbers become more accurate then. So we use the live birth rate as one set of projections with kindergarten, and then kindergarten registration, we use a set of averages from that, trying to give us a window, a picture. Next year's kindergarten class as a whole, we're expecting to be a little bit smaller than what we had this year, but still one of the larger classes that's come to Rolla in a while. So overall, the numbers look pretty good. Do just want to give you kind of a heads up that we will, as numbers come in, we're expecting, from what we see out of these projections right now, we're expecting to bring a request to you at an upcoming board meeting to add one additional FTE at the 5th grade level, and then also an additional special education position, which would be the 2nd FTE. And then we will continue to watch numbers and react to that if we need to add staff. There's one other area that, as of right now, we're focused on to see if those numbers change that might require us to react in that way. But in the past, you remember, we've even, I believe Dr. Zaus, when he was in this position, there was one year where we added staff members as late as August, or, you don't want to do that, but every once in a while when you're dealing with averages, you can get an anomaly and 30 students move in that you didn't know were coming. So we'd encourage the community, if you have students that are going to be kindergarten age this upcoming year and you didn't get to registration, please contact a elementary building and do that. It will help us be more efficient in what we do and how we react to hiring staff, and it'll help us do the best job we can do. So, and likewise, I guess if people are moving away, the earlier they can tell us those kind of things, that helps as well. But any questions about staffing?
We had a salary welfare committee meeting yesterday, which, if this is being replayed, would have been Wednesday, and we'll have another one on April 30th. What we've committed to, which was on the screen there for planning our budget on the revenue expenditure side, is movement on the schedule, which is the $320,000+ endeavor, and we'll hopefully be able to come back, as we've done in the past, after we know more through the legislative session what our revenues are going to look like, to be able to add a percentage, if we can, to the actual amount as well. We did 2% last year, but we initially did the movement on the schedule. As this perpetual calendar evolves, It's kind of where we were. So all those have been inputted into the budget, and as Mr. Henshaw said, the staffing numbers are also being inputted into the expenditure side of the budget too, to be able to carry that. So the one, my favorite slide, it's not my favorite slide, but I think it's the most telling slide that Vicki shows, is the graph where it shows the revenues from the state and local, and then what happened with the ARRA money. You know, as critical as people might have been of the Recovery and Reinvestment Act, you can see that federal bump really helped us at a time that state revenues went down. And we were able to continue to move forward to be able to use those one-time dollars to make programs happen. So, but it's interesting because having been in this district for 20 years, we were heavily, and we are a formula district, so that revenues we're still maintaining, and our levy hasn't been touched, as I pointed out to you, in 13 years. So extremely proud of the work Vicki does in leading that process, but you've got a good group of administrators and a supportive board and a community that kind of, we understand that we're conservative, and being able to move ourselves forward, we've got to continue to do that. So, and still maintain a high tradition of excellence. So we'll bring that back to you after we meet with them on the 30th. We have to have salary recommendations and contracts to them by May 15th. So, ready for questions?
We're getting there.
Vicki, we might have some questions for you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Would you go back to the slide that shows the projections for what we might see next year
Okay.
in your calculation?
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
So the last column,
Yes.
the FY14 estimate is your projection of where we're going to end up on.
And those three revenue sources, yes.
Yeah. And so the formulated number there looks higher than your last, the last meeting. That number is a little bit higher than.
Right. It's not significantly different. It's approximately,
Okay.
I think in the last meeting, I compared it, bless you, to the original
Excuse me.
budget, which would have been the 13,119,000.
119. Okay.
The original budget.
Okay.
So we're anticipating, compared to our original budget, to be getting about $200,000 more in the current fiscal year.
All right. So you have 200,000 additional revenue, what you projected.
Correct.
I don't know if that's before withholding or if the withholding's going to impact it.
I took that into account. I still believe that we're going to be paid approximately 93.2,
Okay.
so I believe that's going to be a good number.
So the way I read this is that
As confident as I
we
can.
have $657,000 then of revenue for the next year to cover any increases in our costs and leave our deficit the same.
Yes.
The deficit spending level at the same amount. If,
Fund balance.
Yes,
no, the fund balance will come down because
Correct.
we're deficit spending.
correct.
And that number was 300 and,
Yes, it was 290 some
yeah,
thousand.
$300,000, which is not bad because of where our fund balances are. All right. I'm good.
It's a planned spend down.
It's a planned spend down.
Yes.
And it's
Still-
it's on a long glide, which is good.
Well, it's because we anticipated the issues with the foundation formula.
We'll
Using-
still be, in the mid-30s as far as fund balance.
Yeah. No, I'm good.
Any questions?
Help me plan.
Thank you, Vicki, so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.